city owns approximately 4,000 acres inside the airport fence, and outside somewhere in the neighborhood of another 200 or 300. So in '67, when they decided to close this base, they divided this up into a few different parcels. So the biggest portion of it went to the city, which was the airport, the area right here next to the airport where the terminal is now, and a number of the old base buildings. And then there was a large section on the west side that went to NMUR to put up a community college. There were a number of buildings that were involved with that as well. In the first year, they began transforming this into a civilian airport, so there was no terminal here. I believe in '68 they started using the old base ops for a terminal and used that until this terminal was built in '75.
How Walker Air Force Base came to be between 1941, start up, and 1967 closed down. Before Pearl Harbor, they decided, the government did, that we needed about 30,000 more pilots. What was looking like a bad situation in Europe, obviously. So then by Mr. Chesser out here sold the government 4,600 acres, and they spent about $9 million in those days to start building an air base that would train pilots. It was a pilot training base and a bombardier training base. They started construction, and in about 1942, I think June, we had the first class of 147 or so pilots graduate. And over the period of time, as World War II progressed, and occurred with Pearl Harbor, we ended up with, toward the end of the war, with 7 flying squadrons and 5 bombardier squadrons. Also, we had 1 B-29 entry training squadron. So we essentially, had 13 different flying squadrons here. And over a period of World War II, from 42 to 45, Roswell Army Airfield trained about 14,000 aircrew. 1967, 30 June. Well, they decided before that, but that's when they actually shut it down. It was about 30 June 1967, and it was dealing with some of the financial issues going on with the Vietnam War, and where they're trying to save money, and they were cutting several bases around. So it was kind of a political decision to pick Roswell, even though Roswell had really good flying weather and stuff. And so I guess we just didn't win the fight on who gets closed and who doesn't.
Our role with the Roswell Air Center is pivotal. As the Air Center was deeded to the city back in 1967 by the Air Force when Walker Air Force Base closed, the property has gone through highs and lows of different types of activity. What we see here with our organization is the ability to create and attract more opportunity, business opportunity, more job creation because of the Air Center. It boasts a 13,000-foot runway, which is not the only one in the U.S., but one of the few of that length in the U.S. The impact, obviously, is to help attract those companies to utilize that runway and the services that we can provide for companies in the aviation sector. The aviation sector for Roswell is one of our target markets. Besides value-added agriculture, renewable energy, oil and gas, businesses, and manufacturing. But the Air Center is home to a unique group of existing MRO, or maintenance, repair, and overhaul companies that have located here because of the vast space we have at the Air Center.
Well, we at General Airframe Support have a 5-year plan. We are going to be a one-stop shop. We are going to not only tear down the aircrafts, doing the reclamation, reclaiming the parts, doing the return to service, doing the checks on the aircraft, but we want to do all the components, from engine rebuilds, landing gear rebuilds, avionics, lights, windows. In 5 years, I see General Airframe just being a one-stop shop. We offer requisition, meaning that we will purchase assets, retired assets, and sell the parts back to the airlines, keep their costs down. We also offer reclamation services for clients that buy assets and want to reclaim the parts for selling. We also offer part consignment. So if they're just an investor and they're not really familiar with the industry, we can not only help them acquire the aircraft, we can part it out, and then we can sell the parts. We have a 150,000 square foot warehouse here, so plenty of room to store parts.
What a lot of people want to know is, what does it cost to park a plane? We've adopted a system that the FAA invented to categorize airplanes, and it has 6 tiers. So right now, where you might park a 757 and our tiers are done by weight with a max weight of 200,000 pounds, that 757 weighs 200,000 pounds, but so does the 747. It weighs more than that. So the 757 is paying $14 a day, so is the 747. So as you can see, that's why we wanted to redo it, so it would better reflect what we're doing. And it didn't go up that much overall, about 13%, but what it does is it spreads out the numbers a little bit more appropriately. So that's kind of, without getting too deep into the actual numbers, what it costs to park a particular airplane. That's what we're doing with the numbers. What it brings to us right now is about $160,000 a month in revenue. So you do the math on that, that comes out between 2 and 2.5 million a year. So it's a significant revenue for this airport. Because we're part of the FAA's Airport Improvement Program, and we get grants every year, every penny that's made out here at the airport by parking, landing fees, passenger fees, you name it, all has to get put back into the airport. It can't be spent on a playground in a park in the city. It has to go back into the airport. The place where the city does benefit in a very big way from having an airport like this is the number of jobs and the impact on the economy that creates. You bring in 200 jobs into a facility here on this airport, and that's an enormous impact on a city of 50,000 people. So they all go buy houses, they all shop locally, they eat in the restaurants, so on and so forth. They pay taxes, and the city makes money that way.
We're a business-friendly, pro-business climate here in City of Roswell, Chaves County. We believe the synergy of having like type industries and their technologies are really important. We also have a skilled workforce in the aviation sector, and more importantly, we have a pipeline through Eastern New Mexico University in their aircraft maintenance technician program to provide additional labor through a workforce pipeline through their training program.
It's because there's a gargantuan shortage of mechanics and technicians around the world to work on aircraft. There's less than 200 programs like ours in the country. And if we had 1,000 of them, we might have enough to meet the demand that's coming up. We're in something of a crisis here. We need to have the more mechanics and technicians we can get out in the field, the better. Aviation jobs are really needed. I mean, need to be filled. There's a tremendous shortage. It's going to get even closer. I think it was Boeing said in 10 years, there's going to be a need for 200,000 new technicians to work on these aircraft. Brother, we're not putting out that many. Maybe 3,000 a year. We're needing 200,000. The average age right now is 58 years old for a technician, and they're retiring quickly. And we need to find a place for people to come in and know what's going on with it. It's a tremendous way to make a living.
There are a few different facets to this airport. Of course, the main one is the MRO. And then the other one that the community sees is the airline service. The two that are not as visible, that I'd like to see get built up a little bit more, are the flight school aspect of it, the flight training. The college has tried to have a flight school a few times, and they're without an airplane in a school right now. There's some private effort to do that. We have a perfect climate for it. We have a long runway. The weather's good most of the time. It's a great place to learn to fly. That's going to take the right person, the right motivation, to do it at the college, and then the marketing again. But I think it can happen because the demand for pilots is out there. It's just going to take the right combination of people and backing to make that happen. And then the other thing that we have is still a smaller facet than the others, but still a big piece of what we do is research and development flight testing. You look at the Sky Hangar over there, they're researching high altitude blimps. And that's a relatively new addition to this airport, one that's been here a long, long time, and they're not nobody's based here, but all of the aircraft manufacturers, Boeing, Bombardier, Cessna, Beech, Raytheon, Textron, Mitsubishi, you can just go on and name them all. They've all tested airplanes here in Roswell. And because we have a unique runway that's not grooved, and it's one that they have to test on to do wet runway testing and then dry braking testing. And so they come and do a lot of that testing here. They like our spring winds when they need to do crosswind testing, because we get a good crosswind to that runway, and it's, you know how the wind is here. It typically can howl pretty good. So they'll come out and test then. We'd like to see more of that. More of that research and development. At some point with a 13,000 foot long runway, as commercial space goes, as it grows, there's going to be more need for facilities that can launch those type of vehicles, and that may be in our future as well. When I leave this airport and I retire in a few years, I would like to see that we've figured out who we are, which I think we're close to that now. Basically deciding that we're both primarily a industrial type airport with airline service, and then have a good governance, whether it's the city, whether it's an authority, whatever it is, but we've got that mission and vision figured out, and we've focused that into our governance, and we've projected our plans out for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, next 20, the next 50.